I'm a big fan of finding video games and video game hardware as well in the wild. That is to say, walking around town, going into brick and mortar video game shops. I like eBay a lot. I like eStarland.com. Very good places, Play Asia, things like this. But and I've certainly ordered my fair share of software from them. But there is something really gratifying about finding things in the wild. And one of my last major retro purchases was found in the wild, and it was indeed the abominable Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy is an interesting piece of hardware. It came out in 1995, so it was mid-90s. Nintendo was, I think, gearing up. It's a Nintendo product, and they were gearing up. The company was gearing up to release, I believe, its N64. The Super Nintendo was just kicking tail and was producing graphics at the time that kind of shut the door on the 3DO, which was supposed to totally outperform the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. With games like Killer Instinct and Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, Nintendo specifically made the point to all gamers that 3DO did not really have too much to offer graphically that was not at least possible to some degree on the Super Nintendo, the games machine they already loved and played. So Nintendo was on top of the world at this time, and so when they released this thing called the Virtual Boy. This thing, you guys may remember it. It's not a portable device. I told you I wasn't going to mention portable devices. This is not portable. This actually comes with its own stand, but it's a standalone product. It comes with a big pair of goggles. You put the goggles on your face, and you basically make sure to get no light in from behind them. You want it pitch black. And it stood up on a stand, so you'd place it on a desk or something like this, and then you'd look at it, and it came with a separate controller that would plug into this this visor of sorts. The game machine only played games, of which I think there were, again, somewhere around 30, maybe even less, available for it in total. And they would only play games in red. Black was the default color of nothingness, and red was the color of somethingness. And so what's interesting about it is this was back when Nintendo's tagline really was "Play It Loud," and that, I think at this point they were trying to catch up with Sega, because Sega, as a huge marketing force back in the 90s, had the aggro, had the, like I mentioned earlier with the Genesis, they had a lot of attitude going for them because we were ready for change. Nintendo, I think, was trying to catch up with the Play It Loud idea, and the 32X came out right in the heat of this Play It Loud marketing ploy, and frankly, it did anything but play it loud. It was really not a particularly hot console. You plugged in your headphone jack to listen to the audio, but the fact is, in spite of all these 32-bit RISC processors, all this technical mumbo-jumbo, the fact is, these games ended up looking like literally 8-bit Game Boy graphics or vector graphics that simulated 3D space. And, for what it tried to be, it failed. For what it was, it really wasn't that bad, and it was certainly innovative. People often deride the Virtual Boy as having next to no value. People think that maybe there's not even anything good on the console. Sure, Wario Land was decent, but, and Galactic Pinball, okay, whatever. But frankly, it really did have some interesting titles. It came packed with a tennis game. Pretty basic, of course, but what made this machine so interesting is that it used oscillating mirrors to fool your eyes into thinking that there was a great sense of depth. So I don't know if you've ever been to the arcade and played the graveyard shooter type games where it's basically target shooting, but it looks like, when you look into the field of view, it looks like it just goes on forever, and they simulate, the one I played simulates a cemetery, and you see just lots of gravestones. There are no zombies, nothing's animated. You just kind of knock things over, but it looked like it just went on. It sprawled for miles, or so it seemed when I was a youngster. And then you spin around and you look at the actual cabinet that was housing this view, and it was small. They did all this trickery with mirrors. The same concepts were used with the Virtual Boy, and to great effect. To great effect. It really did have its moments, and it certainly achieved this spatial, a very real sense of spatial distance in a way that no other console before or since has really achieved, or well, frankly, tried to achieve. But you know, really, it really had some value. The reason red was chosen is because it consumes less batteries than any other color, and also our eyes register it more easily. Unfortunately, with a vibrant red at the against a black backdrop, the machine actually came with a warning to all users, insisting that they give their eyeballs a rest every 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't really say, it doesn't vouch for the general safety of your machine. You know, when Nintendo is still trying to court people of all age groups and all shapes and forms, and gamers or not gamers, and this was a remarkably demanding product from a company that just doesn't really demand much of its consumers. It lets consumers kind of decide, and not so the case with the Virtual Boy. It was unfortunately designed by the guy who did the original Game Boy, Gunpei Yokoi, who is a cool guy, and unfortunately died in an a car accident, not too long after Nintendo more or less shamed him out of the company for this debacle that is the Virtual Boy. Very sad and very unfortunate. I don't think it really hit the market the way he wanted it, but I really do feel badly about it, and I enjoy it for what it's worth. It's not a console that you're going to play much, but it's one you might dive into every so often, and I do know that when I picked it up for $14 in the wild in Little Rock, Arkansas, a lot of my friends got a serious kick out of just its existence. You know, a lot of them had not played it, and they got a kick out of it.